whole trip off. So now they're leaving, they had to postpone their trip a whole week.
Jersey tomorrow, which is stage or something.
I know. Showtime.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the regular meeting for the Lake Worth Beach Community Redevelopment Agency. Today is Wednesday, July 13th, 2022, and the time is 6:05. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. In regards to the agenda, is there any additions, deletions, or reordering? Oh, did I skip that? Thank you.
Mr. Drew Bartlett,
Oh, yeah, I'm here.
Miss Leah Birch.
Here.
Miss Caroline Shamshi-Basha.
Here.
Miss Carla Bloxon.
Here.
Mr. Brett Whitfield is not present. Mr. Brendan Lynch.
Present. Thank you, Emily. Okay. Any additions, deletions, or reordering? Okay, we have no public, so we'll move on to approval of the minutes, and we'll take those one at a time. I'll look for a motion on the March 8th, 2022 minutes, please.
I make a motion that we approve the March 8th minutes as printed.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes, thank you. I'll look for a motion on May 10th, 2022 minutes.
Okay, fine. I'll move approval of the May 10th minutes.
This is the easy part, guys.
Yeah, I'll second that one too.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please state so by saying aye.
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 No opposed, motion carries, thank you. On to the oh, we don't need to do that. Do we move the consent or?
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm feeling a little rusty here. On to the consent agenda. We have items, just an item A, approval of interlocal amendment with the City of Lake Worth Beach for auditing services. May I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we have a presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
That's me. Okay. So, I have good news to report. Our taxable values increased this year 18.9%.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty phenomenal. Just to give you a little background information, residential is 39%, commercial is 61%, a much healthier balance than we've had a long time in the past. We still have 27% of properties within the district that don't pay any taxes, but these are institutional, nonprofit, government, and of course, homestead exemption exempts some of the properties from paying any property taxes.
It'd be interesting to know with this kind of shift in the market, how many properties that were under the homestead exemption that got pushed over.
You're going to see kind of something that shows you a little bit of that in an upcoming slide. Okay, now it doesn't want to work. Now it's going to
Sorry,
go.
I ruined it.
Yeah, you just had to do that.
I broke it. There you go. It's because the thing is on the side. You can't see it. There.
No, but thank you. I could stand up
That's
and
the
do
best
it.
I can do.
I could stand up.
That's why we have our IT.
You're not going to hear me if I stand up.
Here, I got it. Emily to the rescue.
Thank you. Okay. So this shows you from 2013 to 2022 the steady rise in values, pretty healthy, no big jumps or drops there. What I was referring to just a little while ago, the breakdown of taxable values, you can see from 2013 is in the blue. So we have a lot of properties that are, less properties paying no tax, much higher priced properties, which makes sense. Obviously, big jump there from 100 to 300. A lot of properties went up in value, and we also have some properties actually over $1 million. So the baseline was back in 2001. That's when we have our frozen value, which is 174 million, which is now 555 million, which is a 367 increase. Thank you, Emily. Some of the reasons our values did go up so much. The Bohemian, 1.8 through infrastructure agreement. They're also getting tax increment rebate. Our public private investment ratio is 33 to 1 as far as dollars are concerned. They actually just got their TCO. It includes 200 multifamily units. Approximately 50-something of those are workforce housing units. Future train stop, and of course a parking garage that will serve that whole area. We also have 2 projects, Sky Garden and, hold on, what's the other name of the other one? The Standard, okay. So, Sky Garden and the Standard are both under development. The one on the corner, which is Sky Garden, is approximately 60% built right now. It includes 4 residential units, ground floor retail. Our public-private investment on that one was 23 to 1, because that was a lot that was given to us by a bank when we were doing NSP back in the early 2000s. Next door, the Standard, which I think has 6 units in it, plus some ground floor retail. That is privately owned. A person owned 2 lots there and decided to go ahead and build some mixed use along, and multifamily on Lucerne Avenue. And then the property on the bottom, which is also under construction right now, is Allura. Those are 11 units there as opposed to the 14 that are in the one, and those are very high-priced condos, and the investment ratio there is 35 to 1.
Where is that?
That is on...
Conway
Yep.
and Lake?
Okay.
You know the one that they built on the west side of Conway? It's on the other side of it. What, I'm curious, I didn't look, I knew the price point for the one. Do you recall what that is? I can look it up.
I think they're over 5.
Yeah. It's nice looking.
Some other pending projects, you've probably seen the green screen around what was formerly 1715 North Dixie, which is a property that we helped put together. That will be Deco Green. Includes about 121 residential units, some retail, and some office, and they will be giving us the full price for that property, and we will be giving them a $100,000 infrastructure grant. Public-private investment on that is 320 to 1 of our dollars to 320 of theirs, obviously. You have the Gulfstream, which is in the lower left-hand corner. We're still working on negotiating with them for what our subsidy will be for them. We had an old contract with them that said we would give them $1.8 million for infrastructure and a TIF rebate to 2031. Costs have gone up since then, and the city is actually renegotiating their agreement as well. But even if the costs go up, and even if our subsidy goes up, obviously it's still a pretty good investment. That one is 45 to 1. And on the right-hand side, these are properties purchased on Lake and Lucerne. Some of them were NSP, some of them were line of credit, and we have a purchase and sale with Inhabit. These are the latest renderings, bringing it down from, I think, 3 or 4 to 2 stories. Public-private investment is 4 to 1 on those. They actually have one of the pieces. There's actually 3 pieces of assembled properties along Lake and Lucerne that are going to look similar to this, and their first one is actually in for review right now with planning and zoning. Uh, 1213, we're close. We should have an agreement to bring you next meeting for that building. We have 2 grants. We bought it for about $350 $100,000 a few years ago. It was built in 1966. It had a bad fire. It sat there for over 15 years, boarded up exactly like it looks right now. We're working on it using mostly grant money, but some CRA money to make it a future home for the Path to College and Excel Mentoring. So they have children's programming going on there. And there's a rendering of the kind of value engineered building on your lower left. And then the right side, we have the perch. This is, again, just conceptual in nature. They haven't gone through all the approvals yet at the city because they're working with FDOT. We have improvements, pedestrian and bicycle improvements being done at the circle. But the property itself consists of 3 lots that originally, 2 of the 3 of them are owned by the city, and they asked us to get involved and do an RFP for them, and we did. If everything goes as planned, they will be 1, 2, and 3 bedroom affordable units. And the developer's investment on this one is probably even more than $5 million at this point. We have 1000 Lake Avenue. Believe it or not, the windows are in. It's just there's some turnover at the city, and they've been unable to actually install the new windows until they're checked out, I guess, by the new historic planner there. But you can see some pictures on the left down there. It looks really incredible inside. I kid you not, I think Brendan went through there years ago, where you could be up on the 3rd floor and look down to the basement. I mean, it just you could fall through the floors there. A tremendous amount of investment being put into it.
I think the only way you could really give them an idea of what it was, it was rented at one point for like a horror movie, right?
Yeah.
And, yeah. It was rented by like a studio to do like a B movie, horror movie in the building because it was so horrific.
What's it gonna be now?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
What's it going to be now?
It is going to be ground floor restaurant and then offices above.
Yeah. I'm excited about that.
6th Avenue South in Dixie, we're working with the developer down there. He has already obviously put in the Dunkin' Donuts. That was done a couple years ago, but the plan includes 16 other properties that he's bought. And this, at the time I did this, there was 13. He just purchased a couple more. The taxable value since he's bought them just a few years ago has gone up by 163%. So you can see, especially that vacant properties are going up extremely quickly. In fact, we're actually losing out on them for affordable housing, which is a shame. But we're waiting for some plans to go through once they work their way through the city for moving the substation down there, which is going to be moved farther towards the railroad station, which will allow the electric utility company to put in the new KV system without having to stop the old one to put the new one in. We're working on an agreement between the city and the developer, and that should be going to commission in probably the next few months.
Is there an opportunity to underground some of that, or is that the utility stuff?
If you want to pay for it, sure.
Oh.
Completed projects, the mid, I can tell you their TIF is much more than we ever anticipated, which is good for us because the extra money goes back into our account. We invested $1.5 million. Currently, the taxable value is over $44 million. Public-private investment of 31-to-1. We have the shops at Dixie. We did that a number of years ago. That taxable value increased to 3.2 in 2022, so almost very valuable as well. And this is the one that is across from the new Allura, which was earlier, that's being built on Palm Way. This development, we gave them $100,000 for infrastructure, public-private investment of 35-to-1, and a taxable value now of $6.6 million.
That little cafe in there is really nice if you haven't had a chance.
It's very good, very good. Family owned too. Almost hate to talk about this, but future development in the downtown. As you know, the CRA and the city partnered many, many years ago to do a project down there. We are still working on the report with Treasure Coast, and we will actually be going over pro formas next week for different development scenarios. These are all the properties that we and/or the city has purchased. Right now, the purchase price for all these properties was about $4.5 million. Seemed like a lot at the time, but probably we could sell it for substantially more now, although I'm not really sure what the plan will be moving forward. NSP2, affordable housing, just kind of some bad news. We lost out on a couple lots as of last Friday. We're hoping maybe the sale falls through, but vacant lots are selling for over $100,000, 25 by 125, which is seems kind of crazy as compared to just a few years ago when we were getting them for probably 60, 70. But we were able to pick up the ones in red. The green are ones that are already affordable housing. We have 4 lots that I think will be going to Habitat, and then we have one that's under construction by the Community Land Trust, and they are also building another 3 on F Street as well, and all of those will be available probably within the next year. And obviously we're hoping that our grant comes through later this year so we can build a lot more affordable homes in the area. It's just an overview of some of our grants. We have a couple of different grants. We have a signage grant, which I think we just came up with this year. We have a facade grant, interior improvement grant. We've done 21 grants, I think, over the last 18 months or so. We awarded $384,000. The private investment to this was $8.5 million for a ratio of 22 to 1. And these are some of the properties that we did. There's a good number of them on Dixie Highway as well as downtown and also some of the side streets. And then we have 2 that are really kind of prominent right now that you're probably familiar with. One is Herff Jones. I actually emailed all of you a grand opening invitation today. I think it takes place in early August.
August 5th, right?
Pardon me?
August 5th.
Yes, very good.
It looks really nice.
It does, it looks really good. Palm Beach Modern Auction House, that one also received tenant improvement and facade grant from us. That's under construction right now. And we also have one on South Dixie, which I believe is done at this point. So you can see some other ones that we've done there, Lucerne Avenue Development, Blueprint Grill, and a few others as well. Obviously, Cana Restaurant.
Yeah, what's the update there? Do you know
They're supposed to be opening in August.
Yeah, I saw them working on it today.
This is just an overview of grant revenue received since probably about 2008, 2010. Obviously, we had the large $23 million grant from the feds, which helped us substantially get that number way up there. But we were actually looking at, over the past 14 years, of bringing in $38 million of just grant money to the district.
Are we chasing any right now? I know there's a lot of like money that's just
Well, we have the
flowing
2.5
federally.
that we're waiting to hear on for affordable housing. If that comes through, then we'll get that one, plus the match from the city, which is $2 million. So
Okay.
that'll give us a nice little purse to do some serious affordable housing.
Is
Yeah,
that
no
the
doubt.
Mac one? The Mac Bernard one?
Excuse me?
Is that the Mac Bernard one?
No.
Oh, that's
It's a different one. And Emily here just seems to be getting grants left and right for for her stuff.
Nice.
I believe we got a grant for Island Fest, and I know she just got a grant for Day of the Dead as well. So the 2 major events that we do are funded through grant money and donations.
Well done.
Is that a slide?
I think so.
When is the Island Fest?
It was.
Oh, it was.
It was 2 weeks ago.
I was out of town, yeah.
It was very, very nice.
Yeah,
It was
the
good.
pictures look great.
I would have liked to have gone.
Yeah, I was sorry, I missed it too.
Okay. Good?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for that.
Mhm.
Is there any questions? Come on.
Can we get a copy of the,
It's in here.
oh, is it? Okay. I guess
Yeah.
printed in black and white doesn't look as
Nobody has
impressive.
I can send it to
no
you.
tough questions for John?
I was gonna ask, so that was the revenue presentation
Yes.
and everything we're doing? And I was just curious, I went through it before I got here, and I know, just sort of strategically, Yeah, I'm recovering too.
It's a less flattering light.
So we've got like things in the works, and we got L&M that's getting sorted out. Is there another area that you have your eye on that the CRA can bundle or do anything with that's on the horizon, or is just the economy kind of doing that instead?
As far as land acquisition is
Yeah,
concerned?
land acquisition,
I
bundling.
think land
of
acquisition,
projects.
we did the line of credit and we bought a number of properties, obviously commercial properties, and we're still kind of working our way through some of those. But I think we're kind of turning our efforts towards affordable housing.
Gotcha.
I think with that, I think in total, we have about, if everything goes the way that we would like it to, we have a little over $8 million to either subsidize units that are coming online or to build new, and we'd like to really do both because we'd really like home ownership as well. And then I think the other thing we're really going to be turning our attention to is small business. Small businesses, because we have been really successful, again, to getting a lot of properties here. A lot of residential units are coming on board, and now hopefully, we'll be able to help small businesses realize a lot of that potential that's coming on.
Okay. And when you talk affordable housing, is it the individual home units, or are you also looking at complexes? Or both?
Mhm.
So where would we think complexes? Like along Dixie and stuff?
Dixie would be probably the most attractive, especially with the commission who really doesn't want too much height. We obviously don't have a lot of space.
Right.
So that makes a lot of sense. Also close to the railroad track, TOD, that's probably the one area we can get maybe 6 stories that might make it worthwhile to do a LIHTC project or something like that we could put, affordable units in.
Right. How do you pursue those? You kind of wait for opportunities and pounce?
Well, we work with a broker. We work with
Okay.
Anderson and Carr, and they always keep the lookout for us. We also have really good relationships with local realtors.
Gotcha.
They actually have my cell phone
Right.
number, so
Right.
we pretty much jump on things right away. I also do like crazy things like look at LoopNet all the time, or I also do something else which is a little weird, which is I go through the neighborhoods and I see like if there's any bank owned and things like that, so I jump on those right away. But I have to say, unfortunately, a lot of the properties on the south side, the west side, are being bought by companies and not individuals, so it's kind of
That's kind of what I
unnerving.
figured was happening.
Yeah,
Right, so it's harder for us to,
to get them
To get
without
in.
offering more than
Right.
sometimes people are asking, yeah.
right. Okay. I was just curious. I'm excited about everything that's happening. I'm like, what's next? So,
I recall that there was a time when we did some of the business grants, that we also partnered up with somebody that was doing a little bit of like education for like new entrepreneurs or business owners. And
Yeah, I was actually discussing that with staff today. We're putting together like a whole series, starting next budget year, and we're also looking into having some more software available that people can go on our website and get some more information like demographics and what people are paying in the area, and kind of see where their market is or where other places are that are similar to them. Just trying to give as much information as possible, and we're actually trying to do that in both languages, at least English and Spanish for now.
even if you could catch them early enough before they sign a lease, we could even do some educating on negotiating a lease, because I think that's kind of where it starts. If you get off on the wrong foot and you've gotten the wrong end of a lease, it's
True.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of sad, because a lot of the people we're talking to right now, they can't get leases more than a year, but they're responsible for tenant build out. So.
I think honestly, that's one of the biggest things that's hurting downtown.
Yeah.
That right now the speculators are not willing to go out too far on a lease, because they think that it's gonna all of a
Double
sudden
next year. Yeah.
double, and they're gonna be, at this much per foot, and if they would have done a shorter term lease, they could have. So the problem is you get so much turnover, and you go visit a store or a restaurant, and you're like, this is great, and you come back and they're gone. Because their lease was raised 25, 30, 50%.
Yeah, or places just sit empty,
Yeah.
because the owners won't give them more than a year or two, and expect them to pay for maintenance that hasn't been done in a long
Right.
time. Yeah.
Right, and you can't afford to do the tenant improvements on a one-year
You
lease.
can't capitalize
Yeah.
it over 12
No,
months, it's
no.
crazy.
So that's why there has to be that education. If you can catch them before they sign a lease, you can, you know, help them negotiate. If the landlord's negotiable, you know.
Yeah, true.
So. All right. I'll teach the leasing class.
I was gonna volunteer you before you said anything. I was like, I think we have an expert right here.
On to, you're up again.
So for those of you who are unfamiliar with the way that we do the budget, hopefully you were all able to read your sheets. We get very, very detailed just to try to be as transparent as possible, so you see a lot of line items on here. I don't go through everything, but I do go through the ones that either have some changes to it or they have multiple things that are charged to it. So feel free to stop me at any time, ask me any questions that you like. I'm just gonna go through it rather quickly. Obviously, our revenues increased substantially this year. We have an extra $1 million, thanks to the values. In our revenues, we have the money from the county, which is 2.5, very little interest earnings, a little bit of donations. The city share of the TIF, which is 2.8 million. We have $80,000 of grant revenue that we're continuing over from the Solid Waste Authority, and that was for demo for 1213 and also some of the downtown buildings. And then we have designated reserve balance, which is for some grants that were not paid out this year, commercial grants that we have to carry over into next year because their contracts have not expired. So that's a total of $5.6 million in revenue. For our expenses, administration went down just a little bit. We, Mona Feigenbaum moved from Florida to actually New Mexico, so she's still helping us with some of our financial things, but she is no longer a full-time person, she's a part-time person. Big jump in, unfortunately, life and health insurance. There's recommending a 10 to 12% increase this year, so we just try to cover that as much as well as we could, so kind of a jump there. Everything else in that particular area went down. City administration charges, that's for the audit, we got it down to $20,700. I actually put a copy of last year's audit in front of all of you to read when you're really, really bored. All good news though, nothing bad, so that's good. No really great changes here. Promotional activity, $80,000. That's all of our marketing and advertising money. Printing and binding went up a little bit. IT media went up a little bit. All of these, we just did small increases just due to increasing costs of everything all around. So, but not a big change on the bottom line of administration. We went from 796 to 785. So there's a little bit of savings there. For our professional services, this really went up substantially from 55 to 280.
I'm sorry, I thought I had turned it off.
No problem. Woke us up.
Please put it on silent.
Professional services.
The reason this went up so much, and you know, I don't know necessarily that we're going to use it all, but I do hear the city talking about a mobility plan. Staff here is also involved in Vision Zero with the TPA, the Transportation Management, and we put some money in there in case we were going to do either mobility plan or a Vision Zero / mobility / streetscape plan, something like that. We're talking about that with the city, so we wanted to put some money in there so we could partner with them when that comes up. Economic development housing, this includes a lot of ones that we have been, we've promised money to. This includes the Perch, Allura, Inhabit, Deco Green, and Gulfstream. Those are prior commitments. And then we also put in an extra $500,000 for economic developments, kind of encompassing a lot of different things. For commercial grant program, that's the signage, the facade, the infrastructure, and the tenant improvement. We have some money that carried over up on the top, $99,000 that's included in there, and then we also have another $300,000 budgeted for next year. The tax increment rebate is $451. This includes the payment for the mid, and it also includes some money for VAB, Value Adjustment Board rebate, because that happens every single year too. Neighborhood housing programs, we didn't spend too much on this last year. We actually are kind of breaking out housing from this. But one of our thoughts of putting the 40,000 in here was to do some kind of program where, similar to what Habitat used to do, is when we go in and we do an affordable house, maybe we'll paint the houses around it. So we thought we'd try that and see if that was something popular and something that we could do. So we put $40,000 in there for that. Downtown program that includes filling in benches, trash cans, recycle cans, bike racks, etc. The CRA does all of those and fixes those when they're not good. Transfer to capital, that's $600,000. We'll go over capital in a little bit. Buildings and acquisitions, the insurance stays about the same. Demo and dispositions went up substantially to cover increasing costs for the downtown properties as well as property management. We put in a little bit more money in there in case we are called to do some demo, at least on some of the downtown properties that we have. Demo costs have gone up substantially, and a lot of these properties have lead and asbestos as well, so we wanted to make sure that, although we probably won't be paying all of it ourselves, that at least we had some money in there to partner with the city. The $65,000 in property management is also not just downtown, but costs for Hatch. We have parking lots in the downtown. We also have 812 parking lot on Dixie Highway. And for all of these, we pay non-ad val taxes, cleaning, and landscaping. Utilities goes up just a little bit. The Lulu Lake Worth Arts program, we budgeted an extra 10 in here. Excuse me. Obviously, we're doing more than we ever have. This building is being used pretty constantly, which is great. It's just a lot of work, and you know, we want to keep doing more and better things. So we budgeted just a little bit for that. Debt service, those are for the line of credit we took out several years ago, and the payment this year is $600,000. So I'm going to jump to.
Remind me on that debt service, is that adjustable or
No, it's fixed.
fixed? And how long is the amortization?
I think we have like 3 or 4 more years.
Okay.
I think.
So it's going to balloon in 3 or 4 years?
No, it doesn't balloon.
Oh, it's fully amortized?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
We have a great rate.
Well done.
Remember we redid
That was
those?
good timing. I do. Yeah, PNC.
We did it twice.
Yeah, yeah. We refinanced it. Yeah, PNC did it, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, anytime we can take advantage of those community dollars, that community banking program. The other thing, I think that unless you feel comfortable, we should look at our professional services on the administration side for legal, because I think we are looking at a rate adjustment there.
Yeah, but we never come close.
Okay, and then, what's the other one? Oh, the printing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't wanna have another issue with the printing for the neighborhood association.
We're not doing that.
All right, just making sure.
Yeah. Hopefully those books will last a few years.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm jumping over to the capital budget, because the debt service is kind of self-explanatory. All the revenues are coming back out as expenses. So for the capital budget, we have a transfer from the CRA. This is in our proposed budget. $500,000 of that is for the affordable housing program, or excuse me, the attainable housing program that we put together in the hopes that we would get the $2.5 million from the federal government later this year. The transfer from the city is $2 million. Again, that's related to affordable housing. If we get the 2.5 from the feds, then we would get $2 million from the city, and then we would put in our $500,000 plus a lot of the different lots that we own. We could use some of those as leverage for the grant. The grant revenue of $230,000 is for 1213. And then obviously the grant revenue federal is the 2.5 that we're expecting later this year for the affordable housing program. Grant funds SWA, the 108 is, I talked about it a little bit before, it's for the 1213 Lake Avenue project and also for the downtown. And we have a little bit of use of fund balance there. So going down to expenses, we are done with wayfinding. We do have some money in downtown improvements, which is just something that I think we did last year to kind of cover any kind of capital expenses with the downtown. We haven't really touched any of that yet. The facilities is $588,000. This is, we put an extra 100 in here for 1213, just in case costs continue to come in as high as they are. It's being rebid as we speak. And then acquisition rehab, this is $5 million for affordable housing, which brings our total capital project budget to $5.7 million. Questions?
Is this first reading?
You guys can change this. This is just.
Right, this is the time to
Yes,
change,
please,
to make
yes.
any suggestions or comments.
I do have a question. How do you prioritize, like, for instance, downtown projects when you have this list here, or the budgeted amount? How do you prioritize which projects you do within that throughout the year, just for?
Well, the
finding-
downtown's a huge priority because we're paying to take care of all those properties right
Yeah.
now and the ad val taxes. And we know that hopefully by the end of the year, knock on wood, we'll have an RFP for downtown. So it's really important that we kind of get that off of our books.
Mhm.
Everything else just kind of goes to where we see a need.
Gotcha. Okay.
You know, affordable housing, obviously huge need right now. Probably commercial, maybe a little less,
Mhm.
as opposed to other times when we kind of had to step in and assemble some properties. I think for the most part, the market's got that tied up right now. So we're really looking to just, you know, help sponsor the projects we can sponsor, and then try to fill in the gaps as best we can. But again, this is your budget, it's not mine, so if you wanted to
Let's
move
scrap
things
it.
around and reprioritize, I'm good.
I will say, that is one of the things that all these years I've appreciated about what you do here with this process, is that it isn't static. You know, it kind of changes and adapts to the environment we're in, you know. You know, when we went through a very difficult time, you know, we've allocated resources differently than, say, now where properties are going for an all-time high consistently. It's kind of, you have to adjust your mindset.
Yeah.
So, and you know, it is a budget, so if something was to change in the middle of this budget, we can always reallocate.
I also listen to the commission.
Yeah.
So two of the things I heard from our meeting over at the, two main things I heard from the meeting of, three main things I heard from over at the, from the casino was affordable housing, small business development, and what was the other one, Joan? Downtown. So I wanna make sure they're in line with us, we're in line with them, and we're all working on the same
Got it.
things together.
I happen to still think that Lake Worth is the affordable housing for most of Palm Beach County, but I'm only one vote.
Not so much anymore, really. It's very expensive.
Yeah, but comparatively.
Yes. It's all
True,
relative.
comparatively, yes.
We're still.
Yes. But
So-
when wages haven't gone up here for I
Sure.
don't know how long, I don't know how. I mean, even my kids, I wonder how they're going to be able to afford a house. It's just almost impossible.
Yeah. Other questions?
So this is next year's budget, right? So there's nothing Gulfstream in next year's budget, because that's this year's budget?
Gulfstream, our original agreement was paid out over a number of years.
Oh, okay.
So yes, there is some included in here just in case.
Gotcha.
And
where
then
is that? Is that,
It's under economic development housing.
okay.
That 1.7 does include a couple $100,000 for the Gulfstream, because that, our original agreement with them, which expired, I wanna say, awarded them, I think either $500,000 or $600,000 next year, for a total of 1.8, which would be paid out over a 5-year period.
When
So
will
there's
that
no
come
way we
for
can-
us?
Next month.
Okay.
So
That's
it's
what you
going
said
to
last
commission, I
month.
believe, early August, and then it'll come to us, so we can see what the commission does and then act accordingly.
It was prudent to wait because the commission voted to engage a consultant, so it's, you know, even though we're independent, we have our own board, we have our own budget, I think it's still prudent to see kind of what they come up
Mhm.
with. Yeah.
And they're looking at two different things, right?
They're looking at infrastructure money and also the tax increment rebate.
Okay. But they're doing that at the same meetings?
Yes.
Okay.
How does the size of the Gulfstream compare to the building with the little coffee shop in the bottom that was? Do you know? Like, I'm just curious what they're asking for, how it compares to what we awarded to the building that, it seems like a pretty similar size lot, right in the same area.
No, I think it's actually a lot smaller.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the one in
I used to
Allura.
own it, I can tell you.
Allura
Just
in
out of
one, I wanna
curiosity.
say were maybe $6-7 million. The Gulfstream with costs these days, it's gone up to over $106 million.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
The builder's costs have gone up
Oh, yeah.
like over 40%. It's ridiculous. It's crazy from the first time they kind of gave us rough numbers to today.
And it's not only that, it's the time that the contractors are taking to finish anything. It's
Yeah.
just, you know, we were talking about 12-13 and I was like, well, it won't really be a 9-month project anymore, it'll be an 18-month project. And I was like, no, can't happen. Please. So, yeah, I mean, you're still paying your loans when it's under construction, so, you know, hopefully.
Any other, this is all good dialogue, and now's the right time.
Yep.
And to be honest, we don't usually like shift numbers dramatically. It's usually, I mean, Joan's a veteran and, you know, so I'm not saying we need to mess with this. It could be perfect, but this is the right time to ask questions and.
Yeah, but we could still make changes at the next meeting, or you can call me if you have any questions, and we can go over stuff, and we can make recommended changes at the next one. It's only July, so
In
there's no
fact, you
rush.
can also make changes after you adopt it.
Yeah.
That's true. But we don't like to do
This is
that.
a-
We don't like to, that's a
Only
lot.
if it's money coming in.
Did I say that?
Sure. That's a hassle. There's a
One of the-
process.
One of the things that I like about the budget and even last year's budget, it tends to be fairly transparent.
Mm.
You know, there aren't a lot of hidden things in the budget, and when you see the cost, it's relative to what it was last year, and if it's not, there's a good explanation. You know, so as in looking at other budgets and ours, this is a very good one. You know, I don't have a lot of issues with it. You know, sometime for our homeowners association, I pick the budget apart, you know, and they're like, you have another question? I'm like, yes, before we pass, you know, but this one I'm satisfied with. Mike, sorry. I'm sorry. One of the things that I wanted to say about this budget is that it's very transparent. And when we do have a change from year to year, year over year, we actually have an explanation. And so I think that that makes for a pretty good budget. And even in layman's terms, I think that people could follow this budget without a lot of questions. And that's really important, you know, when people think about what the CRA does. If they took the time to look at the budget, they would know exactly what you do, you know, and that's a good thing, you know. Thank you.
You know, in the same vein, this is the challenge when, you know, an unexpected request comes in, and we always want to try and be helpful, but we're not exactly flush with cash here. I mean, it's allocated, and we have debt service, and, you know, like, you know, for example, I think, isn't Delray almost 30 million?
I think it's closer to 40 these days.
Is it? Yeah. Yeah.
Their
So,
budget?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, just to give an I mean, you know, we have our 5 million. We'll get there, maybe, I hope, but, you know, that's what makes it challenging when we have, you know, whether it's the city or another organization looking to us to help them. You know, if it wasn't in the budget, we've got to pull it from somewhere, you know.
Sorry.
Good?
Yeah, I'm good. I think it's a great budget.
Okay.
No, it tracks with what we need to be doing.
So there's really no action that needs to be
Yeah,
taken
it's not
because
an
nobody
action.
said anything. Nobody nobody wanted any big changes, so.
And this won't be approved till the next meeting.
Correct, yes.
It's a two-step process with this, because today would have been the day we would recommend changes, and then we'd see a final version and approve it.
Yes,
in the
but we
next
have
meeting.
plenty of time, so even if we needed to make more changes before we pass it, we have time.
On action agenda, we have discussion regarding Joan's annual review. Do you want to talk about your
Really?
bill? I mean, I can't, I mean, I'm happy to do it. I mean, I guess.
It's my least favorite thing every
Yeah,
year.
Yeah.
But I
It's-
don't have to go through that.
Yeah, so I've seen several different versions of this process through the time that I've, been on the board. And, I really disliked the process in like 2003, whatever, when I was on the board before, where we would get this like, list of things.
I came up with that, by the way.
I hated it. No, we were doing that before you were hired.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it was terrible either way. And it'd be like somewhat good, those things, right? And it was terrible. And it gave you like a numerical score, and it's like, I think we're all adults here. I mean, if there's things that we feel could be done differently, better, more often, more transparent, it's just a discussion. I don't think that we need to fill out a form. And so that's kind of how we've handled it for at least the last
Few years.
several years, yeah. So there's nothing, I mean, this is the process. So it's if there's anything that you're not, that you wanted to see differently, more often, anything, everything is on the table. If you want to praise Joan and say there is something that she's doing that you're very happy with, now is the time. Contractually, there's nothing for us to approve in terms of an employment agreement. She has a contract, which adjusts annually at this time, and it's all laid out contractually. So there's nothing there for us to approve or review. When was that? That was done 2 years ago.
Yeah, it expires next year.
It's a 3-year, yeah.
Mhm.
So this is a formality, and not that, that's not the right word. It's not a formality, because it is important, but there's no contract for us to necessarily change terms and tweak, so. Anybody have anything for Joan?
I have a question. Did you just say that your contract expires when?
Next year.
Next year.
It's a fiscal year basis. Fiscal
No.
year contract
It goes year by year for annual review, but it's a 3-year contract that I had.
that expires at the end of September,
No, it goes till next year,
calendar year.
calendar year.
Gotcha.
It's fiscal year, October 1.
That's what I'm asking, is it
Yeah.
fiscal year?
Oh,
Yeah, your agreement is a fiscal agreement. It would line up with fiscal, right? You wouldn't do a calendar.
kinda sorta doesn't, but we gotta have it close.
Whenever you
So,
signed it, so it's a year after you signed it, kind of thing?
yeah.
Okay. So when you say
If it doesn't
next
line up
year,
with fiscal, that was a mistake.
Well, it lines up with it, so you do the review and we can make any changes before the new budget is made. So, yeah, so
Oh, okay.
so it
Fair
goes,
enough.
yeah,
Okay.
so it's September, but we're talking about it now, cause, have to budget it.
That makes sense. Sorry, go ahead.
I just don't know when our contract expires. Is it next year, like January, or next year?
September.
September, okay. So we got time.
And I just
Okay.
had one question, or just wanted to point out one thing that I know David had mentioned. So it says, following, on or about August 1st of each year during the term, you do the evaluation process, and then following that, employer may award, and so there's a may award a salary adjustment of no less than 3% or the increase for the CPI. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of that, if that's automatic or if that's something you needed to vote. It was my understanding from David that was something that was gonna be discussed today and potentially voted, but.
got it.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize that, honestly. I thought it was an automatic thing, so, if we do need to move that, then we can,
I think we talked about this when your contract came up before,
Yep.
but one of the backup information does include the consumer price index for Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and West Palm Beach. I don't know if this is an appropriate question, but how does your contract hold up in light of the increases due to inflation? I mean, is 3% reasonable when we have 8% year over year? You know, can we have that discussion?
yeah,
Okay.
everything is appropriate, and,
Okay.
I guess, since we're kind of talking about John, I'll field, right, I'll field the questions, and, you know, if it's appropriate, but everything is on the table, and I hear what you're saying, and I definitely hear what you're saying, because I have 100 employees, and I'm adjusting salaries too, at an unbelievable rate. And you are as well, I'm sure, and everybody is. So, the way that this reads is, it's 3% is the floor,
Right.
right? And then it says 3%, is kinda like the minimum, but it should adjust to the CPI, so,
I think that it's up to us to decide to adjust it up from 3,
yeah.
is how I read it.
Is that how you?
Well, it says May to begin
Okay,
with, so
yeah.
it starts off with May, so, and I'll read it verbatim, just so that it's clear for everyone if you don't have it in front of you. Following the annual performance evaluation, the employer may award a salary adjustment of no less than 3%, or the increase of the most recent 12-month consumer price index for the Miami, Fort Lauderdale metropolitan statistical area, whichever is greater. So there's an or in there, so it can't be less than 3%. And then it says, or the increase of the CPI, whichever is greater.
I can tell you
But-
which is greater.
A lot greater.
So,
Okay.
but that doesn't necessarily give us the flexibility of doing something between 3 and CPI, right? It's like,
I think in years past, we have,
Yeah,
We
we have
did.
done it before,
yeah.
We did.
I think
Haven't we? Did we do
because it
4.5?
starts with May, I
CPI.
think that kind of provides a little bit of discretion, because the way that it starts off is, I mean, technically, following the performance evaluation, you may award a salary of one or the other, so you could choose not to as well, because it doesn't say you must.
right, okay, thank you. Is everybody clear on that? Yeah, okay, so, I mean, this is the process where we also, it's not just about the salary, we also, provide feedback. You know, if there's anything that you, again, would like to see done differently, more often, less often. Okay, I'll start.
Okay.
I may, you know, in this particular role, you know, speak to Joan the most out of all the board members, which is likely because of the role, and I will say she's always been available, and my schedule is crazy, so, you know, I really appreciate that fact. I also know that it's been very challenging to adjust to, newer commissioners and bringing them up to speed on what we do. I think there's been a lot of misinformation, a lot of misunderstanding of what we do and why we do it and how we do it. I think that adds a ton of, you know, burden that none of us feel because Joan takes that on. For example, I know that you had not one meeting, but a series of meetings with more than one of our newly elected commissioners, which I think is great, because now I think that those people are much more comfortable. I don't really have anything that I would like to see done differently or more often, less often, any of that. I just am grateful for all these years that you've I tell people the greatest thing I've ever done in my volunteerism on the CRA board was to make the motion to hire you. All those years ago. When was that?
Almost, it's either 14 or 15, I've like lost count.
So,
I'll second a lot of that. I've always found that anytime I feel like I need to call, I get a response immediately, and that you all are very receptive to thoughts or questions or anything like that. And I can't say that to the world writ large, so I deeply appreciate it. I think now we are in a really challenging environment, and who knows where inflation's going to be. So we're kind of in the same place in the firm in terms of reevaluating salaries, so we're having these same discussions, and CPI is a pretty good benchmark. I mean, in a very changing market.
I think that we've been very blessed to have you, you know, and one of the things that I've been impressed with is the number of actual activities that you guys put on during the year. And when I came to the festival a couple of weeks ago, I was amazed at how many people not only were here, but you could tell that there were a lot of families here that they didn't have much money, and this was just such a blessing that they could bring their kids to the petting zoo, or they could do different things, and they could see the person on stilts and the awe on the kids' faces. I mean, that's a gift. And usually agencies aren't as good as delivering that as they should be. And so I think your agency should be commended that you take the time to do it right. And Emily, thank you for doing all your grant work. It does pay off. You know?
And Chris,
But-
Chris does tons of grants.
Yes, yes, I'm sorry.
Leave
Yes.
him out.
But I've had occasions to call Joan and ask her something and say, well, I just need to ask you this question. And she not only would answer my question, but she'd followed up with an email. You know, and that was really reassuring that she took the time to give it more thought than just a general conversation and say, I listened to you. You know, she actually sent the email and gave me direction and really good points that I really needed to know. You know, so I think that that is what makes a very good director. So thank you.
Thank you.
Looking,
Mm-hmm.
looking at the budget just reminded me how much you guys are doing with such a small staff. I think it's very impressive. I don't even know how you, all three of you, have enough time in the day, but.
We don't sleep.
Thank
Down,
you.
Joan.
So, thanks for helping me through my transition onto the board and everything, and listening to my ideas, you know, no matter how, you know, wild they are, and I really, I'm glad that we were able to survive the transition on the commission, and you were able to survive. And I think it was because of your engagement with the commissioners. And so I really kind of wanted to ask how you feel that relationship is with the commissioners, and have you been able to build that rapport to a productive place? And maybe not every single one of them, but in general.
I think in general, yeah, yes. I think, you know, from conversations and from listening to really what their kind of goals are these next few years, and, you know, especially like with the budget, trying to align it with things that they really wanted to do while still carrying out our mission. I think we have a pretty good relationship. There's probably one of the commissioners, and it's just because he's new that I really haven't had a lot of conversations with, but
Mhm.
we'll definitely be
And
doing
he comes
that.
to my board meeting, so I know him well.
You're gonna give me the scoop?
He's a good guy. Okay, I mean, because I have this sense that, you know, there's kind of a shift towards more acceptance of what we do,
Mhm.
right? With the commission and with the community and with everybody, and more support for what we do. And so you know, I mean, we couldn't do what we do without your expertise and these two over here, you know, making it happen, you know, so, I mean, I don't leave. You can't leave before me.
Well, you're
There's
leaving
that.
soon, what are you talking about?
Well, you know, we'll see what happens. But anyway, I appreciate it, Joan.
Thank you very much.
What kind of increase would you need for another 5-year term?
Yeah.
Can we lock you in now?
Yeah.
Well, that's why I asked about when it expires.
Yeah, okay. Is this appropriate to amend and extend?
Let's get into it.
So, in terms of, following the contract, we need a motion, in regards to Jones' increase. Is anyone comfortable doing that at this time?
It's an either or, right? 3% or CPI, or is it negotiated in between?
So that's kind of the way I read it. So I don't know, I'm not the attorney, but I read it like that we have, very little flexibility. It's like 3% or CPI, but, you know.
Whichever's greater, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just that if it's prefaced with may, and I think from what David mentioned, and I think you alluded to it, that in previous discussions, there might have been some.
I may have misremembered. I
Yeah.
thought we were.
So,
I assumed we were up
David
3, but I
mentioned
didn't
that there
remember.
might be discussion, and you may come up with
We
a
pretty
different
much
number,
always gone with
so.
CPI.
Yeah.
You're
That's right.
absolutely right, that we did, discuss something different, but, you know.
We landed at CPI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I thought we did
I
a
think-
5% post-COVID kind of thing. That's what I had in my mind.
I'm gonna blame it on brain fog.
That's
I
what I
don't.
thought too.
Do you
Yeah.
remember?
That was my, maybe October.
Yeah, I think it was the CPI was 5.1, like last year, so you did 5.
Okay.
Cause what's a
makes sense, yeah.
1/10?
All right.
So, just to be sort of candid, and I don't know what you do with your employees, but 9% is higher than general, you know, when I'm dealing with compensation. And we just did a cost of living of 5.38, right? So, but, you know, that's why there's a hesitation. But I could be comfortable either way, you
Yeah.
know, I mean, with 9 or 3. So I don't know how you've been approaching it.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough thing. I always sort of look at, also, I mean, the agency's main revenue stream has gone up, you know, substantially, right? So you have that, so that means that we've got to, deploy that and make sure we're doing, and it's more work, right? So, you know, and, you know, Joan's current salary is well within the range of our size agencies in our area. So, you know, if we did decide to just follow the contractual language in terms of just giving CPI, you know, it is a big jump, but man, everything is so expensive right now. I was telling John, I went to the grocery store up in Asheville for the first time in a long time. I haven't gone to a grocery, and I was just shocked. I couldn't believe how much everything was. My wife does all the grocery shopping, obviously.
Clearly.
So it blew my mind. So, you know, I can pass the gavel and make a motion and see if it's supported.
I'd be comfortable with moving to increase to CPI. I agree it's a large increase. At the same time, I think we have to reward performance, so.
And you know, my goal is to make sure that she stays.
Yeah.
Because, no, I don't say that lightly, because other agencies are going to look to the performance that they've done and say, hey, maybe I could offer her at least CPI, and she would maybe come to us.
Yeah.
You know, so 15 years is a long time, and you've been through a lot. especially in the past couple years. So I would strongly recommend that we do the CPI. You know, that it seems fair. It's not overly generous. It's just what the cost of living is in this day and age.
I
So
agree.
that's
I
my
will tell
recommendation.
you that most agencies would have a lot more staff. You know, the reason we can stay lean and mean in terms of our staffing cost is because we have somebody that rolls up their sleeves. I mean, you know, that's not true, and I work with other CRAs and on their insurance, and you know, that's not the way all of them operate. You know, they'll split the role that Joan's doing into 2 or 3 sometimes. You know, so for what that's worth, you know.
Sounds good. Is that
Is that a motion?
Sure. Should I formalize it?
Sure.
I move to increase the executive director's compensation to adjust to CPI.
I second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion?
Yeah, does it get passed down to these two over here?
That's for the.
I'll take care of it.
All right. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
We appreciate you. Hopefully that is a demonstration of such.
Just about to put my papers on the table, trying.
August board meeting.
Yes, due to some schedule conflicts, we are going to try, if everybody is available, to have the August board meeting on the 16th. So if you could all let me know if that's okay with you. I know it's okay with you.
I'm not available that day, but it's okay if everyone else is.
You wanna call it?
He's like, no,
Yeah,
I don't wanna call it.
I can do the 16th.
Okay. You don't have to let me know that the 2nd, so.
It's gonna be tight.
Okay,
Well, we have to have quorum, so I mean.
yes.
So
Well, we'll make sure beforehand.
you'll do a straw poll and see and make sure. Okay.
Yeah. I
It
know
is-
David
it's
was
a-
available that day. That was important.
Yeah.
Not that we don't love having you.
That one, it is it's not gonna be necessarily a long agenda, but it's an important agenda, so.
I know.
It's
I
kinda
wanna
gonna
be
be
there.
long too.
It could be.
Just so you know.
We may even have public.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I'm sure we will.
That's the agenda with the Gulf Stream on it? Oh, I'd like to be present.
What is the date for the vote for the commission for the Gulf Stream?
I believe it's August 2nd. That could change if the negotiations aren't done yet, but tentatively that's been set for August 2nd.
Which means that the recommendation should be forthcoming, and then the backup should be posted, so you'll have an idea of at least where the consultant is.
Where the city is, where their new numbers are, because costs have gone up substantially, and what the negotiator has come up with.
There's been a lot of work on both sides, you know, in terms of supplying information and meeting with the consultant. I mean, how many, you've been on a bunch of calls as well, but.
Yeah, they're kind of brutal.
Yeah, imagine.
Many hours. But it's an important project, so it's worth it.
Mhm.
I just wanted to start out the executive director's report, well, first by saying thank you to all of you for the raise. I really do appreciate it. And I also wanted to give a big thanks, especially to my staff, but also to board members for the Island Fest. We had a really good time. I think we had a decent turnout for the weather. Thank you so much for coming and bringing your family along. I brought my family too and put them all to work. But yeah, Emily and Chris, you know, worked obviously on Saturday to make that happen, and it was a really good event. And I think a lot of, especially the children in the neighborhood, really appreciated a lot of the different things that we had. As I mentioned before, there's a copy of our audit for 2021. I could tell you there were no findings or anything bad in it, but we got copies for all of you just in case you really want to read it. As of, I think last month, we are going to have new board members, and they will be starting in the September meeting. Before that happens, we'll let you know who they are and when they start, all that good stuff. I talked a little bit about the downtown plan. Just to let you know, we have a meeting with Treasure Coast and Tim Hernandez, who is doing the pro formas next week. Our annual report has been sent to the printer this week, so we'll have that ready for you next time. And the only other thing that I wanted to mention, and I did mention it earlier, is just the fact that we're losing out on properties already, which is disheartening. But the costs are going up and up and up, so we might have to start perhaps offering more on properties if we really want to, continue our programs, which I know that we do, but especially for affordable housing. And that's all I have. Thank you.
I may take an opposite position on losing out to properties. I think that's a good thing.
It would be a good thing if it were families getting these, but when it comes to companies getting them, I don't think it helps us at all.
To what end? What are they're renting them at a high price?
Or just buying them and just sitting on them.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
I mean, the 2 lots we just lost out to were vacant.
You don't feel they intend to buy it or build on them?
Well, they probably will, but I think it's much better to have home ownership and build equity for families.
But if they build a home, they would sell it to a family, wouldn't they? Or you think they'll build and rent?
No, they're gonna rent.
They're gonna rent.
There's probably about 5 to 6 companies that are just coming in and just getting everything that goes up within a day
Hmm.
For rental.
for rental. Yep.
Wow.
It's a wild market.
Hmm.
I've talked to at least 3 people over the last week and a half that are realtors that the sellers want a PSA and deposit in hand before they'll show the unit. So it just seems wild.
I heard one, and I don't know if this is true, but I heard like they wouldn't even give them a tour until they
Until they had a
yeah,
purchase, yeah.
until they signed a purchase agreement.
Right.
Does the city have any properties in their land bank that you would be able to have access to?
There's one that's on South F that we've been eyeing for years, to be honest. Maybe if we get that money from the feds, maybe the city would be willing to give that up. But we're hoping also that the downtown, because we did use our properties as leverage as well, that even if a project goes up there, that at least some of the units would be affordable. So we can use some of our money to buy down units for new projects as well.
Do you remember when we were assisting with some of the foreclosure?
Sorry, I can't hear you, Brendan.
Oh, sorry. Do you remember when we were assisting with the foreclosure and trying to clean up that pipeline? Is that something that we could
Oh, it's dried up.
dry it up? Yeah.
Dried up.
There was a time when
Banks would give us properties.
our nimbleness allowed us to unclog this backlog of foreclosed properties that was sitting, basically kind of caught at City Hall, and we were able to assist there. But apparently, that's not I don't think it's a bad thing that that's not a problem anymore. But it was certainly a way for us to acquire properties and bring, some of these are good problems, but I certainly understand what you're saying about, not being able to acquire these properties. I do 100%, anything we can do to do home ownership is something I'll always support,
Yeah, that'd be great. So you said you were doing the, crunching the numbers with the Treasure Coast next week.
Yes.
What's the next step after you do that and they put together something? Is it going back to the commission and presenting?
I think it needs to go back to the commission, and they're all, city's kind of doing a couple things at one time, so I'm guessing at one point all these things will converge. They've asked us to go get numbers for demo, so we'll present them with whatever those are, and hopefully that lines up with the different kinds of developments we could do depending on, whether we're making money, losing money, what the project is, how tall it is, how dense it is, all that other stuff. So there's a lot that goes into that.
Yep.
So I'm hoping that information and that information, plus they also have numbers on fixing them. So at some point, this needs to go to the commission, and the commission needs to say, yes, we wanna fix, or no, we want a demo, or we wanna do a little bit of both. And then these are the lots that are still available. Obviously, the majority of them are owned by us, but some of them
Right.
are bought with the penny sales tax, so, we have to work together to try to figure all that out.
Right. Is there someone at the city that's assembling, that's a lot of information to condense into a decision?
Yes,
And so there's someone at the city assembling that to help the commission make that decision, like the city manager?
that, no,
That's the
that-
consultant.
that would be William and myself.
Okay.
No, but is it, I see what you're saying, like the consultants are doing like one piece of that kind of three option,
Yeah, so we have to work with community sustainability, so them and us are really the ones that are trying to put all of this together in an easy-to-read fashion, so people can make not easy decisions, but good decisions.
Understand the
Yeah.
decisions they need to make, yeah.
Yeah, but the third option listed where you rehab these buildings,
Huge
um,
expense.
that probably should be freshened, because the numbers that we,
No, the city hired somebody to go do the.
Cost estimate.
Yeah,
but
cost
wasn't
estimates.
that a few
Like,
several
It
months
was just
ago?
yes.
It was-
You
Can't
could just
move
add a
the-
percentage to it, I suppose. But even from that, I think we learned that some of them just, unfortunately, were not worth saving. I mean, obviously anything can be saved, but when you're looking at the numbers and you're trying to figure out which is the most efficient, there were some that were just so, not maintained
It's-
for such a long time that,
So expensive.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And during the last meeting, when we received the information, we were sitting there and we were looking through saying, okay, how much is this worth on the open market? And then how much money are we gonna invest into fixing this? And we're not even gonna get our money back, so it doesn't, what would seem like makes sense to us, we have to make sure that it makes sense to everyone else, including all the members of the commission. It's not enough to say, these are the numbers in black and white. We have to deal with the emotions around these properties,
True.
so.
Our responsibility is to all taxpayers, and,
Yes.
so.
So is the commission's.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
That's all I had, thank you.
Could you-
Oh, I'm sorry, was there more questions?
You gotta raise yourself with us.
I'm fine.
Comments? Board member comments?
Nope, sorry I had to step out a few
No
times.
worries.
I have my own board meeting tomorrow and
Oh.
stuff, so,
I'm sure.
but it's good, thank you. Thank you, Jen.
No comments, thank you.
The one thought I had was, especially when we're anticipating a lot of participation in a meeting, it'd be great if we could do like a CRA recap of all the stuff we've done. Because it seems like in meetings prior, when that's happened, when there's been public or commissioners, it really seems to open the dialogue. So I know it'd be a little bit redundant if we keep doing it over and over, but I don't think it's a terrible thing to keep putting out there. Look at all the great stuff we've done.
We could do a quick recap at the next meeting.
Okay.
It's up to you guys.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be like, I don't know how, PowerPoint's like magic to me, so I don't know how hard that is to put together.
They're not hard to put
Um,
together. It's hard for me to edit them.
Well,
Cause I'll have 50.
I think if we almost started a lot of meetings with a brief highlight reel, I don't think that would be a terrible thing.
Oh, I actually like that idea.
That's it.
If John wasn't so humble, she would have done that for this in lieu of
With
discussion
sparklers and-
around her raise, but we knew she didn't need to, so. No further comments from me. Thank you, everybody. I'll look for a motion.
I just have one quick question.
Sure.
Do you need authority from the board to sign? David's gonna be putting together an amendment for Joan's salary increase, and so do you need authority, or do you already have authority to sign the amendment?
We
That will cover-
we wouldn't amend it, actually, because
Oh,
it's.
he mentioned an amendment, and you
have to
needing
do
to
an
sign it.
amendment in order for you to pay me more.
Yeah.
No, because it says CPI.
Okay, you say so.
We're not amending. Which,
Okay.
yeah, we're following the agreement. The only amendment I would be in favor of is extending the years. I'll take whatever recommendation you have. It was moved, so I don't know if there's.
It explains again,
It was
maybe
my
no-
understanding.
I'm not an
to-
attorney, but we have
Yeah.
one here.
Yeah. Tax.
I honestly, I don't think that we're following the agreement, so if we were, I think
Yeah.
maybe if we would have done something that wasn't in line with what that says, we might have needed a signature, but
Okay.
that's my opinion.
I just know that David mentioned to make sure you had direction to sign it, the chair, so that he could, this amendment could be made. So unless there's miscommunication.
Let's do it, just to.
Should we
yeah.
move to, do I need to move to
Just
reopen
in the
that?
event that you need it.
Okay. Should I move to reopen the item or just start
No.
now?
Move to give them authority.
Yeah, I'd be happy to move to give Brendan whatever authority he needs in order to effectuate the CPI increase for the
Was-
executive director.
Who was your seconder?
I second.
Agree? Okay. All in favor, state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you
Tech-
again.
Thanks for the technicality. I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you.